Hello, Amesy here for Amesy's Antics. Welcome to my channel. I hope you are well today because we have another crafty project to have a go at. Well, actually, we've got 3 projects to have a go at because in this video, I'm going to show you how to make DIY pumpkins in 3 different forms. So the first one is going to be some clay pumpkins. The second will be a clay pumpkin tea light holder. And the third will be some fabric pumpkins. So if you would like to see how to make your own DIY pumpkins, then let's get crafting. To make the clay pumpkins, you are going to need some air dry clay, a little bit of water, a cocktail stick or something with a sharp point, and some acrylic paints. Start by removing some of the clay from the block. Now you can have as much clay as you want or as little as you want, it depends on what size pumpkin you would like to make, and then just mould it a little bit in your hand to make it a bit more pliable. Once it is more pliable, remove a little piece and save it for later, and then begin squishing the clay into a ball shape. So you can either rub this in your hands to create that circular ball part of the clay or rub it on the table, whichever method you prefer. If the clay has any cracks or isn't smooth, use a little bit of water on your finger and just rub this in. It'll put a bit more moisture into the clay and help smooth it out. Then use a cocktail stick or a toothpick or something with a bit of a point and it is thin enough to then mark out some lines from the bottom to the top of the ball. This will create the sections to the pumpkins. So all you want to do is create a little groove, I guess you could call it, and just smooth this out if it does sort of tear the clay a little bit. Keep going until you have gone all around that clay pumpkin. Using the small bit of clay that you pulled off earlier, roll this into a bit of a sausage shape and then start to mould it to make it look a bit like the stalk of a pumpkin, and then we're going to attach this to the newly formed round piece of clay. So you want to just wet the bottom of this and wet the top of the pumpkin and mould it in. The water will help smooth this out and connect the 2 pieces together. Then allow to dry and harden. It may take a day or 2 to fully dry out. You may want to turn it as well whilst it is drying. When it has dried out, you just want to then use a bit of sandpaper. Now I am using quite a fine sandpaper and then I went for an even finer one after this one. So just give it a quick rub over, remove any lumps and bumps that may still be on, and just to make it a little bit more even for painting. Make sure you wear a dust mask for this as well because there will be lots of fine dust coming off of the clay pumpkins and you don't really want to be breathing these in. Then you want to use a dry paintbrush and just dust off the pumpkins to remove any of that clay dust that may have sort of gone into those lines that we created. And then it is time to decorate the pumpkins up. So I am using some acrylic paint here in a really nice rich blue colour, and then mixing it with a really nice metallic-y pearly blue just to give it a little bit of a sheen. So just mixing these up on a little saucer and painting that on to the pumpkins. Leave the top part of the pumpkin, don't colour this in the paint because we're going to do that another colour in a little bit, but you just want to paint all the way around the pumpkin and leave it to dry, and you may need to add another coat. I found that I needed 2 coats to get the colour and sheen that I wanted. For the other pumpkin, I wanted a really nice teal colour, so I am using a dark green and then mixing it with that metallic blue colour used on the first pumpkin just to get that really nice blue-green teal colour. Then finish off the pumpkins by painting the stalks, and I've gone for a really nice gold colour here to really contrast against that blue and teal green colours, and I think it's turned out fabulous. Once the stalks have been painted and dried, the DIY clay pumpkins are finished. To make the clay tea light holder, you are going to need air dry clay again, as well as that sharp toothpick and some acrylic paint, not forgetting something to mould the tea light holder around and some cling film. You want to start by grabbing a large piece of the clay and just moulding this in your hand again to warm it up and really make it pliable. Now, I had a little bit of trouble forming this little tea light holder, so what I first started to do was push it out with my hands and sort of mould it into a shape on the table, and then mould this around the small glass tea light holder that I already had. I found that this didn't really work very well. It wasn't very even and just didn't look right, so I had to go back to the drawing board with this one. To make the clay more even, use a rolling pin and roll this out into like a circle, making sure that it is even in thickness all the way across. Once you've got the size you want, then use a large mason jar or a coffee jar, whatever you have to hand that you can drape it over, just marking where the middle is with the sort of top of this, turning it over and then folding the clay around the end and flipping it over so that the clay hangs downwards, and gravity will really help in smoothing this down. Then begin moulding it around the base of this to get that really nice pumpkin shape, using a cocktail stick then to create them grooves again to give it that pumpkin look. And you will see some of the clay is folded over on itself here, and I quite liked how that looked. I felt it looked a bit like a shriveled up pumpkin, you know, like when you've actually carved them out and they were going a bit off. I quite liked the shape of that. And then using a little bit of water just to smooth any of those lines out and the edges out. Taking it off the mason jar and putting some cling film in will really help remove the clay once it is dried, so make sure you have cling film so that you can remove it from the jar, and then allow it to dry for a few days on a windowsill. And then, like we did with the pumpkins, just use a bit of fine grit sandpaper to smooth out any of them edges and any lumps and bumps that need sanding down. This will also give the clay a bit of texture for your paint to adhere to as well. Then just use a clean dry brush again to get rid of any of that clay dust that may have gathered. So for the paint job for the tea light holder, I am actually jumping onto that new paint trend of baking powder paint, where you add bicarbonate of soda or baking powder, whatever you want to call it, to your paint. So sprinkle in a teaspoon worth of baking powder and add your paint to it. I am mixing 2 purples here, and just mix this in together with that powder, and just keep adding the powder and paint till you get the right consistency that you want. And you'll know when it's right because it'll give it that really thicker, grainier look to the paint. And I guess this is just to mimic a really rough clay look, like a terracotta pot, obviously in a different colour, and it just gives it a bit more texture and definition. So all you need to do is then paint the tea light holder in this, and you may need to do 2 coats to get an even coverage. To finish off the tea light holder, I am using a gold colour and mixing it with a little bit of black to give it a really nice brassy, gold aged antique gold look, I guess. Just painting this on the inside, and there's no baking powder in this one because I wanted it to be smoother on the inside. Painting all of the inside and then going around that top edge and some of the folds going down into them on the tea light holder. Once this is dried, the pumpkin tea light holder is finished. To make the fabric pumpkins, you are going to need different types of fabric in whatever texture and colour you like. I've gone for a few velvet and a sequin one here, as well as some toy stuffing. Now, if you don't have any toy stuffing, you could use the inside of an old pillow, or if you've been making pom-poms, the offcuts of the pom-poms work fabulous in this, as well as a hand sewing needle and some thick cotton, some plates or something round in various sizes, and some fabric markers. Start by marking around a plate in whichever size you like. The smaller you choose, the smaller the pumpkin. Just going around this with a fabric marker and then cutting this out. Double thread your needle and tie a large knot in the end of it, and then you want to go around the whole top edge of that circle using a running stitch. Now ideally you want a large needle so that you can get through some of the thicker material, but obviously whatever you have to hand, you can do a running stitch with whatever needle you have. Make sure you've got enough thread on the needle because you're going to go all the way around the top of this. Now a running stitch is basically creating a stitch, leaving a gap, and then coming up into the material and back down, creating another stitch again, leaving another gap, so it sort of goes all the way around. And I guess it is like a gather stitch. I don't know if a running stitch and gather stitch are the same, but it's the same principle. Once you've gone the whole way around, you then want to pull that needle with the thread still attached, and it will begin gathering the material up towards the middle and making that really nice round pumpkin shape. Don't pull it all the way because you want to add your stuffing before securing it all in. And as you can see, I am using the pom-pom offcuts here, but you can use toy stuffing or that pillow stuffing, whatever you have. Make sure it is thoroughly packed in, and then you want to pull that thread taut again to close up the gap. To create the stalk for the pumpkin, use a dried stick or branch, cutting it down to size and placing it in the middle of that pumpkin. Then what you want to do with that thread is take it around the stick and tie it in some knots, alternating from side to side, and it should start pulling the pumpkin material in toward the stick, securing it in place. But I will show you another way to do it as well if this isn't working for you. You can also use your needle and thread to secure it in place, so you're going from side to side of the stick through that pumpkin material and then alternating from side to side around the stick. You can create some loops around this and then securing it with some stitching, and this can help secure it a little bit better than the tied method. Once this is all in place, then your fabric pumpkin is ready. How to make DIY pumpkins in 3 lovely projects. I love how these have turned out. I think they've all turned out really well, but I think my personal favourite has to be the fabric pumpkins. I just like how they bring a bit more texture and looksness to the decor, and they're just a little bit more unique, I think. Let me know what your favourite is in the comments below. I would love to know. And if you're considering giving any of these projects a go, please do let me know how yours turned out, either in the comments below or over on Instagram or Twitter, wherever you want to get in touch. Show me what you come up with as well. If you've enjoyed the video, then please do give it a big thumbs up, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you are not already subscribed, to keep up with more creative goodness coming up onto the channel. If you click the notification bell, then hopefully that will notify you when my next video goes live. It's usually on a Sunday morning, but if you click the notification bell, it should let you know. And don't forget to check out my blog Ames's Antics, linked below, because there's always a ton more information over on the blog for you to check out. And with that said, I will see you in next week's video, and I hope you have a lovely rest of your day and week, and I will see you next time. Bye!